They laughed at him. Not loudly, not openly, but enough to let him know he didn't belong there. A 17-year-old black teen stood alone in a courtroom, wearing a borrowed suit, no lawyer by his side. The judge looked at him and smiled, because no one expected him to speak. No one expected intelligence. No one expected confidence. No one expected what came next. But when this teenager opened his mouth, the laughter stopped. The judge leaned forward. The prosecutor froze. And the entire courtroom went silent. Because this wasn't just a kid defending himself anymore. This was a young man speaking with the calm, precision, and confidence of a top attorney. Quoting law, challenging procedure, and demanding fairness. What started as mockery turned into shock. And before the hearing ended, one moment would change his life forever. Stay with me, because this story proves that sometimes the most powerful voice in the room is the one nobody expects. The courtroom was loud with quiet judgment. It wasn't the kind of noise you could hear. It was the kind you could feel. The sideways glances, the raised eyebrows, the unspoken assumptions hanging in the air like dust. Every bench was filled, yet somehow the room felt cold and distant, especially for the teenager standing alone at the defense table. 17-year-old Marcus Hill slowly rose to his feet. His suit was clearly borrowed, too big in the shoulders, too long at the sleeves. He tugged at the cuffs, trying to steady his shaking hands. His heart was pounding so hard he could hear it in his ears. This wasn't how he imagined standing in a courtroom for the first time. Then it happened. The judge let out a short laugh. It wasn't loud. It wasn't meant to be cruel, but it landed like a heavy weight. A few people in the gallery smiled. Someone whispered. Another person quietly chuckled. To them, it was a harmless moment. To Marcus, it felt like the entire room had decided who he was before he even spoke. That laugh made the room feel smaller. It made his chest tighten. It reminded everyone that no one expected much from a teenager standing there without a lawyer. Marcus had been accused of trespassing on an abandoned property. He wasn't breaking in. He wasn't stealing. He was trying to get back his younger brother's bicycle, stolen days earlier and spotted behind a rusted fence. But details didn't seem to matter now. His family couldn't afford an attorney. The public defender assigned to his case had been reassigned that very morning. No backup, no advice, no help. So Marcus made a choice. He chose to speak for himself. The judge leaned back in his chair, a faint smile on his face. "Son," he said casually, "this court runs on legal procedure, not speeches." More quiet laughter followed. Marcus felt every eye on him. His legs felt weak. Sitting down would have been easier. Staying silent would have been safer. But instead, Marcus took a slow, controlled breath. He lifted his head, straightened his back, and looked directly at the judge. In that moment, something shifted, because Marcus wasn't about to speak from fear. He was about to speak from preparation. And that was the moment everything began to change. "Your Honor," Marcus began, his voice calm but steady, "I respectfully request the opportunity to address the court regarding the facts and applicable law of this case." The faint smile on the judge's face disappeared almost instantly. The courtroom went quiet. Not the awkward kind of quiet, but the kind where people suddenly realize they should be paying attention. Marcus wasn't speaking like a nervous teenager anymore. His words were measured, controlled, intentional. He explained the timeline clearly. He described when the bicycle went missing, how his younger brother had cried that night, and how days later Marcus spotted the bike behind a chain-link fence on what appeared to be an abandoned property. He didn't dramatize it. He didn't exaggerate. He simply stated facts. Then he moved to the law. Marcus spoke about intent, how criminal trespass requires knowingly entering property without permission and with unlawful purpose. He explained that there were no warning signs, no locked gate, and no visible ownership markings on the land. His goal, he said, was not to break the law, but to recover stolen property. He didn't rush. He didn't stumble. He didn't raise his voice. Instead, he spoke with a confidence that felt earned. In the front row, the court clerk slowly stopped typing. A prosecutor who had been skimming paperwork looked up, eyebrows raised. Even the bailiff subtly shifted his stance, now fully focused on the young man speaking. Marcus cited local statutes, Not word for word, but accurately enough to show understanding. He acknowledged where the law could be interpreted against him, then explained why context mattered. The judge leaned forward in his chair. "Where did you learn to talk like this?" he asked. Marcus paused, swallowed. "My mother works 2 jobs," he said quietly, "so I spent a lot of time alone. I used the public library. I read law books, not because I had to, but because I wanted to understand how the system works." His voice softened slightly. "I didn't want to be afraid of it." No one laughed anymore. In that moment, the courtroom wasn't looking at a defendant. They were listening to a young man who had prepared for this moment long before anyone believed he could. Then Marcus did something no one expected. He challenged the arrest itself. Politely, but firmly. He asked why no verbal warning had been issued before the citation. He questioned why officers hadn't attempted to verify whether the property was truly active or abandoned. He asked why no effort was made to confirm his claim about the stolen bicycle. These weren't emotional questions. They were legal ones. The prosecutor rose from his seat, clearly ready to object, but stopped halfway. He glanced at the judge, hesitated, because Marcus wasn't wrong. The judge raised his hand calmly. "Let him finish," he said. Marcus continued, carefully choosing his words. He admitted that entering private property was a mistake. He didn't deny responsibility. Instead, he explained urgency, how his younger brother depended on him, how reporting the theft had gone nowhere, how time mattered. "I understand the law exists for a reason," Marcus said, "but the law also allows discretion, context, and intent to be considered." He spoke not like someone begging for mercy, but like someone seeking balance. "I'm not asking for sympathy," he concluded. "I'm asking for fairness under the law." When he finished, the silence felt heavy. No whispers, no shuffling papers, no coughing or movement. Just a room full of adults realizing something uncomfortable, that they had underestimated the young man standing before them based on appearance alone. The judge looked down at his notes, then back at Marcus. For the first time, Marcus wasn't just defending himself. He was commanding the room. The judge removed his glasses and rubbed his forehead slowly. That single gesture said more than words ever could. Then he did something rare, something almost unheard of in a courtroom like this. He apologized. "Marcus," the judge said, his tone completely different now. "I laughed earlier. That was inappropriate. This court recognizes preparation, respect for the law, and effort, and you've demonstrated all 3. Marcus blinked, unsure if he had heard correctly. The judge reviewed the facts one final time. Then he made his decision. The charge was dismissed. A quiet gasp rippled through the courtroom. But the moment didn't end there. The judge asked Marcus about his future. Marcus hesitated, then admitted he dreamed of becoming a lawyer one day, but didn't know how he'd afford college, let alone law school. The judge looked around the room. "I want this young man's name remembered," he said, "and I want information provided to him about legal mentorship programs, scholarships, and academic guidance." The prosecutor nodded. The clerk made notes. Then something unexpected happened. The courtroom applauded. Not loud at first, but growing. Respectful. Genuine. Marcus stood frozen, his eyes wide, trying to process how a moment that began with laughter had turned into opportunity. Word of the hearing spread quickly. A short courtroom clip made its way online, and soon thousands, then millions, were watching. People saw a teenager who had been underestimated and chose knowledge over anger. Marcus didn't become famous overnight. He didn't suddenly become rich. But doors opened. Lawyers reached out, offering mentorship. Universities sent information. Community organizations raised funds to support his education. People who had never met Marcus believed in him because they had seen his courage. Most importantly, Marcus learned something that day he would carry forever. Your voice matters, even when people doubt you. The same courtroom that once laughed at him became the place where his future truly began. The judge later reflected on the case, saying it reminded him that justice isn't about appearances, it's about listening. Sometimes, all it takes to freeze a courtroom is the courage to stand up and speak anyway. This story reminds us of something powerful. Never judge someone by how they look. Judge them by how they rise. That teenager walked into court underestimated and walked out with respect, opportunity, and a future rewritten. If this story inspired you, hit the like button so more people can hear stories like this. Subscribe to the channel for real-life moments that restore faith in courage, justice, and human potential. And remember, your voice matters. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next story.